Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Yeah. Can I make you groove now? Yes, I can. So you can get this groove in the back of a can. You can make it round the world and it holds in your hand. Popcorn World. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. I said popcorn make you smile. Ah. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. It's a popcorn world. It's a popcorn world.
You're now listening to Bleav in the ACC with Heisman Trophy winner and Florida State legend, Mr. Charlie Ward. Wave 3 TV and Fern Creek Hall of Famer Kendrick Haskins. And Mr. Talking Noise himself, and of course Mama Noise's name, Lloyd Smith. And now, it's time for Bleav in the ACC.
Hello, everybody. Unfortunately, we come on today with very, very tragic news, as you may or may not have heard yesterday yesterday evening, rather, a Black Hawk helicopter collided with an American Airlines commercial flight over the Potomac, I believe it was the Potomac in Washington, D.C. And initially, it was a tragedy in and of itself because there were believed to be no survivors. It has now been confirmed and reported that members of the U.S. figure skating team and coaches were aboard that flight 5342, I believe, is the number, and there are believed to be no survivors on that flight. It is a horrific tragedy. The members of the flight, it looks like did not survive. The members on the helicopter, it appears and looks like they did not survive as well. The families are being contacted. So we at Bleav in the ACC, we want to send our thoughts and our prayers to everyone involved in this, from the families of those who were on the flight to U.S. figure skating as a whole, and just everyone involved. It's just a horrific tragedy, and we want to send our thoughts and prayers to all those people. So we wanted to get that spoken. Shocking, Kendrick and Charlie, this morning. Shocking information in regards to that, but definitely didn't want to come on the air this morning or during this broadcast and not acknowledge that unbelievable situation. So your thoughts before we get started with our show?
Yeah, obviously shocking. I mean, that's the first I heard about the Olympic team being on the flight. Just waking up to that news this morning is a very tragic incident. Prayers to everyone involved, including those who survived, who witnessed it, the air traffic controllers and all of them, because obviously there was a mistake made somewhere along the lines, and feel sorry for that person or those people that were involved in that, and so prayers out to them and their mental health, and just prayers out to everyone involved.
And that's Very, very tough news this morning for all those involved, because I'm sure, as we all know, there's miscommunication along the way when you have that kind of uh, tragedy or issues. So yes, there's a lot of people that were definitely sad to hear that news, especially USA figure skating team. Um, we don't know who they are,
Right.
but we know that they're part of a group that was representing our country, and all those who are involved with the helicopter and the helicopter as well. I mean, we've seen this time and time again, not time and time. We've seen it before, with the Kobe Bryant situation. It was like tragic, and so hopefully we don't have to experience this again. Um, it's just tough to be able to hear, even though you don't know anyone on in that situation or that was in on the flight. But you just have empathy for those families that got the news this morning that
Mm.
this happened,
Yeah.
or they probably knew before, but we're just getting the news. But it's just tough to be able to get that phone call. Never
Mm.
had it happen to me before. The Lord
Yeah.
knows. I hope it doesn't. Um, but I can only imagine
Yeah.
the phone call, and
Oh,
so
100%. And I think it was, you know, 64 as of, I think as the last thing I heard. Um, I like you said, Charles, I can't imagine. Um, what we do is fun in the morning and or these mornings. Uh, Podcasting has been fun. I've enjoyed it tremendously. It's not fun on days like this, but we will try to make it fun, despite what has happened, and we'll do our best to not distract you from the realities that are going on in our world right now, but just to kind of give you a little bit of an escape if you need it. So, with that being said, again, we give our thoughts and prayers to everybody who is affected by this tragedy. So. So with that, there's no easy transition there,
Yeah.
other than just to say, welcome, guys. This is Bleav in the ACC, and we have breaking news. We were going to go a completely different route to start this show this morning, and yesterday afternoon, at about 5:40 Eastern, John Cook, the legendary coach for the Nebraska volleyball team, decided I've done all I can do here. He took his 700 and I think 78 wins and went home and said, "I'm taking it to the house." And in about 15 minutes after that, they called Danny Busboom Kelly from the University of Louisville. Said, "All right, it's your job."
I mean, pretty much that's how it sounds like it went down. Danny Busman Kelly basically all but built the volleyball program at the University of Louisville. She definitely left it. And much respect and congratulations to Coach Busman Kelly. I mean, she's been great. She was great with the media while she was in
Oh,
town. She took advantage of the rich volleyball recruiting there is in this area because low key volleyball is huge in the state of Kentucky,
it
and
is.
she took advantage of that and it's flourished, and so she left it in good shape. And her assistant coach Dan Minsky is going to take over, and he did a lot of the coaching in game anyway, and so it should be a smooth transition.
Yep. Charlie, I gotta say, if you're a University of Louisville fan today, you can't be mad at this. If you're a realist as it relates to coaching, period, you can't be mad at this. This is the equivalent of I don't know what is this the equivalent of. I was gonna say it's the equivalent of JJ Redick taking the Lakers, but not really, because JJ never played for the Lakers. It'd be the equivalent if JJ played for Duke, I guess. and went back to coach Duke.
So
If that was his dream job or something, I don't know.
so she's she's from Nebraska.
Yeah, she's from there. She won a national championship there as a player.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
no surprises for her.
yeah, totally understand that. Um, that move, and for Nebraska, I'm sure it was a no-brainer once they found out and knew. Um, I don't know how all of a sudden it was. Most times it's not that
Yeah,
all of a sudden. I mean, you
yeah, well,
kind
it's
of
that fast. It wasn't that sudden.
yeah.
Right.
So I'm sure they had their sights set on who they wanted to take over the program, and um, for her, it's a good move to go back home. And I mean, she's a quality uh, coach, and as we know, they definitely support their volleyball in Nebraska
Yes, they do.
as
Well,
well.
Charlie, I would argue she has become the Gino Auriemma of volleyball like overnight. Like she's going to be the most popular coach on that campus. Because I don't even know, other than I know who the football coach is, just because it was a professional coach that or a successful coach at Baylor that went to coach in the NFL. But he's not the most popular coach on that campus. She is now.
Well, Fred Hoiberg,
Eh,
I'm the captain.
Fred Hoiberg can't fill up Nebraska's football stadium and sell it out. Like, not going to see Fred Hoiberg coach. I mean, it's a great gig. You can't argue with the choice.
No, I mean it's a match. I mean, it's definitely a match. I mean, like I said, she won a national championship there as a player. She's been an excellent coach in her career, and if you're Nebraska, I mean, it feels like she was probably the coach in waiting. And if Nebraska, I think you made the right choice. And like I said, for her, she gets to go back home. And it's got a fertile recruiting ground there. There's a huge fan base and following. So I think it's just a good choice for everybody involved.
100%. We have more breaking news this morning. Let me make sure. And this is happening in real time.
Yes, I saw that just before you started talking about that.
Right. So I'm going to have to read it from my phone because it's happening in real time here. ESPN OK's option to televise ACC sports through 2036. Has agreed to pick up its option to continue broadcast ACC sports through 2036. The television deal settled. The ACC is now working towards a settlement with Clemson and Florida State that can end those schools' ongoing lawsuit against the conference. ESPN had until February 1st to pick up the option, which obviously they have with time to spare. The ESPN had ESPN declined the partnership, it would have ended in 2027. Sources say ESPN agreed to pick up the option after the ACC agreed to new value adds. So that's the workaround that they're doing. Negotiations around the option ran in conjunction with discussions between the ACC and Clemson and Florida State on a new revenue distribution model aimed at alleviating the school's biggest concerns over financial disparities with peers in the Big Ten and SEC. And this is on the ESPN's website, so if you want to read more, you can. But we've talked extensively about this on this show. I will lob this up to our resident Florida Stadian, Charlie. And I know you're hearing this in real time, but what are your, as they say, knee-jerk thoughts to this breaking news story?
Well, I mean, it took all the lawsuits and all the different things to get them to this point. I don't think they would have done it on their own. And of course, it costs everybody a lot of money to get to that point. Hopefully, they're able to make it up at some point.
Right,
But
right.
Mhm.
I just hate that you have to go through those um, go those directions just to get what's supposed to be done corrected. And so and fair across the board when you start talking about the equity of college sports and the way we know it and see it. I mean, the Power Five and those conferences at the time, Power Five, now it's Power Four. You know,
Mhm.
they've kind of run certain things as far as football, the major sports, in a lot of ways. And so now, at least there is some semblance of parity in that regard when it comes to what has separated the SEC and the Big Ten in a lot of ways is just that TV contract, especially with the ACC, was hanging on. And so I think there's a big fight between the schools and trying to get here, but in the conference. But I do believe the right thing, from what we're hearing now. I don't know what the terms and all that, but it sounds like they're at least moving in the right direction.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
It,
literally reading it as it goes, as we
the,
go.
the interesting part about it for me is that this could not be a worse time for Florida State football to not be good. And
Oh, we're
so,
gonna we're good. We're gonna be good. We
well,
just had a bad year. Yeah.
I mean,
See,
we'll see, Charlie.
see the
We'll
thing.
see.
See the thing that people thing that people are forgetting. Just 2 years ago. I understand the recency bias. I totally get that. And
Right,
last year was definitely a year for everyone to remember in a lot of ways, but we'll remember because that's going to fuel whatever happens next. But just the year before, we lost one game out of
right.
14. And so to go 13-1 and then to go 2 and whatever we went this year is to me like night and day. I mean, and you can't expect that to happen again. And I know Coach Norville and the staff, they are doing all the things they can to get it turned around. And so I don't think that will happen again. And if it does, of course, there'll be major changes there.
Right.
But I do believe they'll have a much better season next year than this year. Whether they get to
But
the
to
championship or
that point,
not,
yeah. But to that point though, it's the optics. It does whether it's true or not. It's the optics, and that's coming on the tail end of this coming on the tail end of that season. The non-Florida State fans are going to say, "Why are they worth a revenue split?" You know,
but
you
but
know,
it
right,
but it's not even Florida State. It's whoever. I mean, we were the ones that brought it up,
right,
and it went through all the fight. But this could be anybody. I mean, any school when it comes to the revenue sharing. I don't think it was just Florida State. Talking about them being the revenue share or whatever the case may be, or the high. They
or the
just
model.
said, yeah, they just wanted to make sure that if the programs that are doing the most or in the bringing in the most, that they receive the most or a certain percentage. And so I don't think that's any different than any other conference, or
Well,
maybe it is.
you're right there at the University of Louisville. How do you think this news is going to be received there?
Um, I I think they're okay. It is weird that like Clemson and Florida State are the focuses of I mean of the deal. I mean, and of the art. Maybe it's just the article. Maybe there's more to come out. But like I guess because they had the lawsuits, that
Right.
they're the focus of the deal. But yeah, I mean, like if you're the other schools, yeah, I can see like why you'd be like, well, why are they? Especially, I mean, like you said, like the optics of it. You look at the programs now. Florida State's coming off of what a 2-win season. Basketball, they're did not look good on television at that empty arena last night. And then the way Clemson's up and down with football and basketball right now. Clemson is a brand, but but in the long grand scheme of things, yeah, Florida State is kind of like they brought the ACC into prominence when they
No
joined the
question.
ACC in football, and so I can see both sides of the argument. But I mean, if as long as it makes the ACC competitive with the other Power Four conferences, I think the other schools are going to be fine with it. They just want to be able to be competitive because Coach Wallace in his press conference yesterday alluded to it somewhat yesterday about NIL money, but that a lot of where a lot of it comes down to, as long as they can be competitive, because a lot of these ACC schools are basically across the street from the ACC, SEC, and Big Ten schools, and so as long as it's competitive, I think they'll be fine with it.
But see, the thing that I think everyone's missing is Florida State and Clemson are named in this whole deal because they're the ones that stuck their neck
Yeah, they
out
filed the
for.
lawsuits.
Right.
Yeah.
They stuck their neck out for the other schools.
Mhm.
Right.
And so now the parity is going to be across the board. It's not for FSU or for Clemson. It was to be able to get what they're getting now, which is a new TV contract for everybody. And so if your school is going to be one of the school flagship school that carries the team, carries the conference into, the CFP every year or years, then you'll be able to receive, those
The lion's
resources.
share. Yeah.
And so I think this other schools in the ACC should be thanking Florida State and Clemson for sticking their necks out, their resources to be able to help, those schools that deserve, whatever share they get.
Right, and if you're U of L this year, you're in pretty good shape for all that. So, uh, yeah, I mean, like I said, I think at the end of the day, everybody just wants to be able to be competitive and be as level of a playing field as possible. And because, like I say, with Louisville, you got Kentucky down the street and IU down up the street, and so you're right there competing with those two schools all the time. And so as long as they're competitive and as even as a playing field as they can get, because it's never going to be completely even because the SEC and Big Ten rule the world apparently, then I think they'll be okay.
At the SMU today, you're like, huh?
Hey man, if you SMU, you've come into this conference and made an immediate impact, and so
Of which you'll see no TV revenues for the next 8 years.
well, that's the contract they signed. They can't be mad at that.
And then
They literally have to just sit down and be quiet and just go ahead and compete.
right, same thing for Cal, same thing for Stanford. They won't. I think they're at 30% or something like that on the revenue share. So it's
Why did they sign an 8-year deal? To me, that's
well, they actually signed a 9, and the first year just ended. But yeah, it's they want it in. They want it in.
but that's to me, that's not a win-win for
It's
either.
not.
That's a win for. That's not a win. If you're going to bring someone in conference, you at least want to have a win-win in some form. But there should be an out clause somewhere within those 9 years that if things change, and I think they did it, SMU did it because they weren't going to let them in, or if they didn't do it. And
Right.
for the ACC, I understand all of the other stuff, those schools, but if they're a big brand, they're in Dallas, and if they're going to be able to help the conference continue to develop and grow, that's good for everybody. Because if they're in the CFP and I'm a two win team, I'm going to get a portion of some of that because they're going to bring it. They're going to bring it back to the conference.
Charlie, I gotta believe there is a out for them in this deal. I can't. It would be hard for me to fathom that SMU is going to. Because what SMU is, first of all, let's be honest about SMU for a change. SMU is not just competitive in football; they've been competitive all the way across the board in every sport, and even now in basketball, they're having a halfway decent season on the men and women's side. I think more so on the men's side than the women's side, but still. They've been a welcomed addition out of the 3 schools that we added. You could argue they've been the best add that we could have possibly had.
It's not even an argument,
right? So to know that you're at a high competitive balance with the rest of the league, and it's not going to mean anything financially, that's rough. So nobody wants to be an 8-year intern. So unpaid intern. Right. Yeah. They signed the deal. I get it.
They signed the deal.
but I do wonder.
ACC signed that bad deal with the ESPN to begin with. I mean, so.
But I do wonder how long they'll stay in the league under those guidelines. Like, as they get better and better every year, it will make them more attractive to the Big Tens, to the Big 12s.
Yeah.
Maybe they jump to another league just because they need.
And money. That may have been their end game from the get go.
100%.
Because right now, I think they just wanted to be in a power conference. That's what it was, and so they took the deal they could get, the best deal they could get, and that's where they are. I mean,
but the challenge is the only way for them to make money is to literally go and do what they did this year every year. They got to go be competitive in tournament games.
It's SMU. They've got money. That's why
they got money now. They do got money. That's for sure.
Not every school can do what they did. Western Kentucky can't afford to do that, but SMU, they've got money. They can do that.
For those who are in the know as it relates to SMU's tuition payments, they're going to be fine. Trust me, they're going to be just fine. It's not. Yes, listen. They've been in IL. They've been doing this.
All right.
I want to ask Charlie so bad something, but I'm not going to do it. At least not on air. But but I'm almost certain. I'll just ask this. Did SMU recruit you, Charlie? Say it again. I'm sorry.
No.
Oh, they didn't. Okay. I'm sorry.
They'd already had it. I think they'd.
Oh, that's right. They'd already been hit by the end. Yeah, they'd already been hit by the end. Okay. All right. I'm just curious. Charlie. And you didn't have to say that no like that. It felt like you were trying to. That no was a no and no, Lloyd. That's not.
It was very emphatic.
You hear me? So
that's
why I said a little louder.
You did. I'm backing off, Charlie. I'm backing off. Okay. Let's get into some other stuff. What we actually scheduled to do today, which was take a look at some of the first bracketology. We have not done that. It's that time of the season to kind of start getting into that. This is a first look.
Can't believe we're already heading into February.
Man,
it's crazy.
2025 is rolling. It is rolling. And with that, the SEC is in a very, I don't want to say weird, but it's in a unique place. Like I don't know how to even define it. I don't know. Let's go through it and just have that conversation. So this is the Joe Lunardi, who does his brackets every year, and by the way, unlike Mel Kiper, Joe Lunardi's brackets, or his accuracy at what he does is wildly consistently, and he's usually pretty spot on. So he's got Auburn, Xavier, and Auburn as the overall number 1 seed, Xavier as the first team out, and UCF as the last team in.
Did UCF win that game against Kansas? I know they were up.
Was that last night?
Yeah, I think so.
I tell you what,
I didn't see it last night.
I didn't see it last night either. If you could confirm that, I would really appreciate that, sir. So if you look at his on the bubble listings, we'll start there. There appears to be 1, 2, 3, 4 teams in the mix for opportunities. The last 4 buys, he says one of those will go to Pittsburgh. The last 4 ends, he says one of those will go to North Carolina.
Kansas held on to win 91-87 at home. That was on
So Kansas pull that out. Okay.
on Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on the last 4 outline, he's got SMU. And then on the next 4 out, he's got Wake Forest. And Louisville did them no favors by hammering them the other day in what essentially was it like 15-point loss, but it really wasn't a 15-point loss. It's more like a 25-point loss.
They were down by 29 in the second half.
Right. So, my question to you both is this to start out this discussion. Louisville and Duke seem to be heads and shoulders above everyone else. And the challenge that the ACC is having right now is that because Louisville and Duke are so far ahead of everyone else, there doesn't appear to be opportunity for quality wins anywhere else in the conference. So how do the ACC teams make up that ground as the February and as we roll into February going into March? How do they make up that ground if you can't get a quality win anywhere? Because right now, Joe Lunardi has Louisville as a 6th seed. And then he has he has Clemson in. Okay, so Clemson would be in according to Joe. Who else we got here? Duke as a number 1 seed.
That's probably it.
I would think.
Oh, that's Pittsburgh. He's got Pittsburgh in there.
Yeah, he's got Pitt as a 10.
Clemson is 9-1. Clemson is 9-1 in the league.
In the conference, right?
And they're 17-4 overall. So
okay.
When you say Duke and Louisville are head and shoulders, I mean, statistically, Clemson is in the mix as well. They're playing consistently if they're 9-1. Maybe they haven't played Louisville or Duke.
That one is a loss to Louisville.
Oh,
well, double digits.
Well, when I say they're not considered in the sense of the eyes of the AP and coaches voters for whatever reasons. So it's interesting because the ACC all of a sudden has the same problem in basketball that it had in football, which is the value of the conference. And so you're 1,000% correct, Charlie, in that Clemson is matter of fact. Let's just go to pull up their the standings for the ACC right now, and then we can see it for ourselves. And I think it's the same problem. Yeah, it's the reputation of what people think they are.
I agree. But if you go and pull up every conference, you're gonna have
exactly the same way.
You're gonna have very similar. You're gonna have your top tier teams. You're gonna have the next tier where there may be 1 or 2 games, back in the loss column, and then you're gonna have your third tier team. Teams where they're slightly below 500, and then you'll have your last tier teams where they're way below 500, and that's in every conference for the most part.
Part of the problem is like with the ACC, your top tiers are U of L, Duke, and Clemson. Duke's 10-0, Clemson and Louisville are 9-1, with Louisville having a win over Clemson. Next is Wake Forest, SMU, and Stanford with 3 conference losses, and Louisville just destroyed Wake Forest.
And by the way, Louisville had a pretty dominant win over Clemson, which again, that to me is part of the problem because Duke, and that's what I meant when I made that statement, because Duke and Louisville's wins were pretty substantial they've been pretty substantial over everyone else, which gives the perception, whether it's true or not, and I don't believe that it's true, but I'm saying that's the perception, that Louisville and Duke are so far ahead of everybody else, and everybody else is not that good. I don't think that's true, but if you're not watching these games all the time like we are, then it looks like it's true.
I'm watching these games, and like I'm pretty convinced that it is true.
That was gonna be my next question.
I mean, I watched Louisville destroy North Carolina at the Yum Center. I watched them destroy Wake Forest. They blew out Florida State at Florida State. I mean, the Pitt game was good. They won that game at Pitt, but like Miami's 0-10, Boston College 1-8. I mean, you've got so many. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams in your conference are below 500 in conference play. So they've earned their perception.
I don't know what you're supposed to do.
We're basically what the hard part for those top three, Duke, U of L, and Clemson. If they lose a game, they lose another game, not to each other, they're gonna fall so far.
That's where I was headed. They can't afford to lose another game. It's like
unless it's to each other.
Unless it's to each other. Like a Duke loss looks fantastic for Louisville. But
Louisville was in that game, and then they fell apart.
Right.
Yeah.
But like a Virginia Tech loss is horrible for them.
Yeah, and also Louisville against Clemson and against North Carolina, those games were close until the end, and then Louisville pulled away late to win by double digits. But like I said, SMU was supposed to be in that close to that tier, and Louisville won by 25 at SMU.
That was
that's where it's at right now. When you have 10 teams below 500 in conference play, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. So I don't know what those teams are supposed to do, and as we know every year, a lot of this works itself out because other conferences beat up on themselves as well. I think it was Kentucky got a big win against Tennessee.
Yeah.
The other day, which was, that helps the overall thing, although there is again perception that the SEC, although I don't know if it's a bad perception because the SEC teams are really killing it right now.
They are, because their record against other conferences is so good too.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, as well as Louisville's playing, they went 0-4 against the SEC. So
yeah. I wonder, was that because? Well, I don't know. I wonder if because Duke lost to an SEC team as well, right? They lost to Kentucky.
Yeah.
Okay.
First game of the season.
But the thing is, and this thing I always talk to our guys about as well is, what happens in the early part of the year is
that's where I was going.
What it is. I mean, especially if you have a new coach, you're trying to get it all figured out with the team and guys trying to figure their roles out. There's going to be some bumps in the road. But the thing that you really want to be striving for is how are we playing in January and February going into conference championship and, the tournament. That's where, regardless of how many, you don't want to have a whole bunch of losses, but if you have some losses, you want to be able to learn from those early on. But you want to be playing your best basketball around this time, going into February, and you want to be clicking at a high level because that's, regardless of where your seed is, you want to have a higher seed, but regardless of where you are, you want to be playing at a high level because if you're going to play somebody, you want to be playing them when you're playing well, whether it's a top seed or not. And so I just think, the key is how can we sustain this level of play throughout the month of February heading into March.
100%, and I think it's more than likely that the four teams that we mentioned will continue, and then maybe North Carolina. If you look there, Joe Lunardi has North Carolina in a play-in game. I think North Carolina, with their senior leadership, because R.J. Davis is in his 9th year there, and so
Carolina's their own
uh,
reputation, dude.
yeah, I think that the TV show will get North Carolina in.
They're 13-9 overall.
Right.
It's
They
a
got to
super
win though.
important
They got to
time.
win. They
Yeah,
definitely got to win. They got to
yeah.
win because
If they get
I
in
can see
over,
them.
if they get in over Pitt, well, like they had Pitt in the tournament, didn't he? He had Pitt in the
Yeah,
tournament.
Pitt's in according to Joe Lunardi. He's got them in,
Because
and I
they
think
just
Pitt will
beat
get
Carolina.
in. Yeah, I think Pitt will get in, but it's just those guys got to keep. I'd like
SMU
to
and
see. Yeah,
Stanford are the ones that to keep an eye on. I think too.
I think it's gonna be tough for them coming down the stretch, especially if SMU doesn't figure out. And so can we have a Louisville discussion real quick? Let me pull this off the screen for just a second because Louisville is a fascinating situation right now. Because I want to believe what I'm seeing. It looks like this team is for real. And I'm not just saying in an ACC perspective, but like they could go shock some teams because they play a style of basketball, especially on the defensive side, that can win in March. This is winning basketball in March. But I wonder, it's also losing basketball out first round basketball because when you're shooting threes at the level that they shoot and they don't go in, you don't last long. You can't win a game that way. So I don't. What do you guys think about Louisville? What's your thoughts on what you've seen so far? 10 in a row.
They can because the thing is with their shooting, and because they do shoot a lot of threes, but they also play great defense,
Yes.
and they get a lot of offensive rebounds considering. I mean, James Scott's really the only big they have left, and but they're scrappy and they hustle. They play hard.
They play very hard.
Their effort carries them as much as anything else. They've been hot from three the last couple of games, but it's their effort and their defense is really carrying. The three is the flashy part of what they do, but it's really they get down. And Chucky Hepburn is one of the best defensive point guards and one of the best overall point guards in the country. And he's going out there and getting you 16 points and 8 assists, and he's locking down the other team's point guard. I mean, that makes them very hard to beat. And they said we always say in March you need guards. They've got 3 really good guards between him, Rain Smith, and Fat. I always feel weird calling him Fat, but they're right there. I think because I texted you after that game the other night, like, you know, we've been crowning Duke as the best team in the conference, and rightfully so. But right now, Terrence Edwards, who's I'm talking about, is Fat, by the way. If are we 100% sure that Duke is still the best team in the conference because they've been kind of squeaking by lately, and Louisville's obliterating teams. And so
I feel like
sure?
Cooper Flag. I feel like Cooper Flag covers a multitude of sins.
They definitely have the best player.
Yeah.
In the league. They have the best player in the country.
Yeah, he covers a multitude of sins, but I don't know if they're the best team. Charlie, what do you think about that?
Well, I haven't watched any of them play, but I've just been following them. I mean, there are a lot of, and all this will play out, of course, over the course of the season. Right now, we're just speculating on who's the best by the way they're playing and the results that they're getting. And when you have 2 teams that are competitive and they are the same, the game will be good. It comes down to who makes the most plays when you need them, and those types of things. And so we look forward to having Clemson, Louisville, and Duke, playing again because we know that those games will be super competitive. And so regardless, I mean, it's just like good on good, in practice. You're going to have a lot of things going on that's good. And so I look forward to seeing those matchups. because as I tell my guys all the time, if you play a certain way against the opponent, the score will reflect how you competed. And so
Mm.
if we're better than this team that we're competing against, the score will reflect that. We talking about these 25-point wins. Well, the other team, they're out there trying as well. But if we're getting after it and we're doing all executing at a high level, the score reflected. And when you're playing against other teams that's very similar to you, the score reflected. And you'll be in a dogfight. And so you have to figure out how to manage those games as well. So I just think, you know, I don't have to watch the games, to know if you're talking about teams that are competing at a high level and being consistent. The score reflect that, and you can see who they are.
Yeah.
And if you have a dude like Cooper Flag, when we start talking about covering a multitude of sins,
He is a dude.
that let's use that guy. And that's no different than LeBron James or any of the other guys that you have. I mean, LeBron took his team to the finals like 8 years in a row. And you can tell me half of the guys that he played with. And
Oh
so
yeah, yeah, you can.
you can't.
Yeah,
I mean, he
yeah,
didn't.
Kyrie, Kevin Love, Richard Jefferson, J.R. Smith, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, Ray Allen.
He's had some help, Charlie. Is what we're saying. He's had some help.
He has.
He's had some help.
But there's a
Uh,
few years that he didn't have people that we
yeah,
didn't know,
Also true.
and they ended up in the
those,
finals.
those last couple of years in Cleveland. Yeah,
That first year in Cleveland,
well,
when
the
they went to
years
the
when they had
final,
to,
I have
the
no
years
idea
when
who was on that team.
yeah, well, who's the dude that had guarding Steph?
Oh, Deladova.
Yeah, Deladova. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was his second best player in that finals.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
get what you're saying, Charlie. Let's take a look at the women real quick.
I just want to look at I was just looking at Duke's team leaders: points, Cooper Flag; rebounds, Cooper Flag;
Yeah.
assists, Cooper Flag; and blocks, Cooper Flag.
I mean,
he is a dude, but I do
the guys
think
do doing the thing.
I do think Malawaka's really key to their team. That's his stats don't mean he only averages 8 points and 6 rebounds, but he shoots 75% from the field, and I think he is very key for them because he that game when they lost to Kentucky, Cooper Flag got tired out, and that's part of the reason why they lost. And Malawak went out of that game with an injury, so I think he's very integral to that team more than he gets credit for, and more than throwing up all over the floor like he did the other night.
Well, yeah, that was weird. He
That was a
must have
strange
really been
game.
sick. I was like, whoa, hadn't seen a dude throw up in a game quite some time. But it's going to be interesting to see because I agree with you. Obviously, Cooper Flag is not doing it, quote unquote, alone, but it kind of feels like he is, though, because
He feels like he could make a Danny Manning run in the tournament.
yes, and also he feels like he could make a Zion Williams run in the tournament. You understand what I'm saying? Like, they're that good, but also he carries so much on his shoulders that if maybe he flames out, it's a lot of pressure both ways. We'll see how it unfolds as the year continues, but
Dude is a pro. I mean,
one
and
hundred percent.
and so I don't think he'll flame out because he is a pro. Like he's been doing this since high school,
Yeah.
or probably earlier than that. But what we've known, he's been doing carrying these teams very similar. Like people trying to not trying, but people that really talk about him until he started, dominating on all these on the national scene. And then he got the eyes of the pros, this past summer when he was playing, in the Olympics or practicing with the Olympic team. And so if he flames out, it'll be because of the team, paid a lot of attention
A
to
lot
him,
of attention to him. Exactly.
and he wasn't able to get whatever it was. But that's the reason why you have other guys on the team, and they have other guys on the team that can get it done. But
Yeah.
they rely on him a lot as well, which is good coaching.
Well, I mean, it's definitely a no-brainer, Charlie. I mean, pass to Cooper should be the mantra, if nothing else. Okay, let's go over to the women's side real quick, and very different scenario on the women's side of the bracket. Charlie Cream, who is the I hate to call him the evil twin, but he's the the female side of Joe Lenardi's male side. He does the women's bracket. He's got 9 ACC teams going in, and the ACC is having a tremendous year. The overall top seed, he's got UCLA. Last 4 byes, no ACC teams. He's got Virginia Tech being the last team in from the ACC, one of the last teams in. Stanford with a chance to get in, but we still got a lot of basketball left to play. But he's got UCLA, South Carolina, USC, and Notre Dame as the top 4 teams. He's got Louisville in at number 8. He's got, let's go back in the top here. I don't want to go too fast here, but we got California. Just scanning over here. Florida State.
NC State's over there.
NC State's over there. And by the way, I don't know if you saw the game. I think it was Sunday between Florida State and North Carolina. Fantastic game. Tanaya Latson was amazing. She is a young lady doing a thing right now. She is the Cooper Flag of Florida State women's basketball. Let's see. On the bottom half of the bracket, we've got there's Louisville. There is Duke. Duke basketball, women's basketball, is fascinating to me because they really don't have a dominant scorer. But man, as a team, they play very well.
If you look at it, I mean, they're very similar to Louisville. Louisville's the same way.
Yes, they play very well as a team, but there's no dominant anything. They just have a great team concept, and it's working. It's really working. But the women's side is looking very good. So I think I agree with Charlie Cream in that the ACC women should get a ton in. I think there may be opportunity to maybe match the Big Ten in that you get 10. There's some teams on the outside looking in, but if they can finish strong in February and also have a decent run in the ACC tournament, they have a chance to crack that group as well. But the ACC women are playing some fantastic basketball right now. Is Hannah Hidalgo still out? I know she was out for a little while.
I believe she's back.
Okay. By the way, just off a pure side note, I saw some mock projections, and now that so this is a long way to get to a quick thing. You guys are familiar with the trade that went down the other day with Jewel Lloyd and Kelsey Plum and that group.
Plum.
It netted the Storm the number 2 pick in the WNBA draft, which most projections have Olivia Miles going to the Seattle Storm. I was like, oh, that'd be a nice.
She's coming out early.
Well, she's a junior, right?
She's been there a few years.
Yeah,
she just redshirted when she had her knee surgery or knee issues.
I didn't realize she was already a senior. I knew she redshirted. I thought she's just a junior.
Yeah, no. Remember, we had been talking about her for quite some time, and then she had the injury last year, so she pretty much set out all. Well, she did set out all of last year. So this is her final, I guess, year.
She left high school early.
That's when she reclassified. That's what it is.
She left high school early, so she was playing her freshman year was her senior year in high school. So
Gotcha.
she didn't play her senior year in high school. And so that's when she went to Notre Dame for
Gotcha.
her senior year, which is her first year in college. So she's been there for at least 3 years.
I'll be honest with you. If I had to pick today, if somebody said you got to pick somebody to go win the national championship.
I've been on Notre Dame since all season.
Same here. I'd be hard pressed. As great as UCLA has been, they have been fantastic. As great as USC has been, as great as South Carolina has been.
Notre
I
Dame's
love
my dark
great
horse.
guards. I love great guard play in the tournament, and I know historically that has mattered in March. And I'm telling you, those two women,
But the women have some really good guard teams, though.
they do. They do. Those are just my two favorites.
Yeah, and people forget about Citron. Sonia Citron. I mean, she's shooting 35% from three,
Yeah.
and she's averaging 13, just under 14 points a game, and almost 3 assists. So she's right up there with them too. And then Leata King, she's averaging a double this season. So they at Notre Dame, their starting five is as good as any starting five in the country. Now they do slack off when it gets down to the bench. The bench is a little thin, but that starting five can compete with anybody.
That's taking nothing away from Texas. I know their team, their guard play has been fantastic. Taniya's been amazing. I mean, Taniya's leading the conference. So I get it. I totally get it. There's something about those two ladies and their basketball IQ that I think when it comes to March, I just got a funny feeling, guys. That's all I'm saying. But again, that's today.
I'm with you.
I'll have to make that selection right now, but when we fill out our brackets, I don't know. We'll see.
Taniya's been so good. I mean, she's leading.
Taniya's been outstanding.
She leads the country. I mean, how about the top two scorers in the country out of the ACC? Because Hidalgo's right behind her.
Yeah, they've been outstanding. Which is interesting because I don't think that's what everybody would have predicted going into this season. It was all about Paige. It was all about Juju. I get it, and rightfully so. Those two women are phenomenal. They'll probably go 1-1 back to back in the WNBA draft this year and next year. But
But this is what makes the conference so difficult. SMU has the third leading scorer in the conference and the leading rebounder in the conference. They're 2-7.
Yeah.
That's how tough it is, and it's also strange.
Well,
That's how tough it is.
that just means they have two good players.
Yeah. But when you have that makes you dangerous against anybody you play.
Yeah. And they need some help. They got to get some help from the contributing
Maybe,
players.
maybe they need to spend some NIL money with the ladies basketball team.
It's coming.
Yeah. So
7 ranked teams in the ACC.
yeah. All right. So that gives us that takes us into our first look on mock drafts as well. And by the way, not for nothing, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but ACC quarterback Tyler Shuck. Okay, let's go with that. It just does not look like Shuck. I'm sorry.
It doesn't, but it's like Shuck and Horn.
But he's having a day. He had a day. He's been having a week. At the
Senior Bowl. Yeah, he's been killing it.
People are saying, "Hey, this kid might have something." He may be playing himself into a draftable situation. So it's interesting. But I want to look at the first draft.
But he was good in college. I mean,
100%.
especially at Louisville.
Yeah. I mean, I thought he was going to be I think he'd be a draft pick regardless. I mean, he's not going to be a high draft pick, but I mean, I could see him being 3rd or 4th round quarterback.
As weird as this is going to sound, his age is what plays against him.
His age and his injury history. I mean, he's had so many injuries. I mean, last year was his first full year playing a full season.
Yeah. So I almost hate to use this guy's draft information because he's typically like way off on most of his picks, but he may not be on this time. So let's talk about the top of the draft. We got Tennessee, Cleveland, and the Giants. If you're Tennessee, how do you come out of this draft not picking a quarterback? Are you that sold on Will Levis?
They're going quarterback.
It's only been a year. It's only been a year.
But it was a really bad year.
It was a bad year.
This is 2 years now. He's been there 2 years now.
Yeah, but I don't think he's been the starter for 2 years.
This is his first full year as a starter.
Right, as a starter.
They had to bench him a few times. So I guess they'll go quarterback, I think.
You think so? That's wow. Charlie, I know you're not a fan of that. What do you think they should do?
It depends on who the quarterback is, but we've seen. I never was a big Will Levis fan, you know,
Same here.
from the jump. And so, I mean, everyone was excited about his size and all that arm strength and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, he just wasn't a good decision maker or accurate with the football. He's a good runner for the most part.
Yeah.
Enough, I should say, to be a top-ranked quarterback. But I mean, if they can find someone that kind of check that box, that they feel they can put their time behind, because they drafted Malik Willis, and then they ended up, letting him go to, I think he's in Baltimore.
Green Bay.
Green Bay.
He had a great season this year.
Yeah.
He was outstanding at Green Bay this year.
I mean, to me, they should have kept Malik Willis and built around him, because he
struggled there too, though. When he was there, he was pretty bad when he was there.
But that speaks to them.
You need to look at the offense.
I was going to say, that speaks to them.
The offense. What are they doing on offense? That they've drafted 2 quarterbacks and they've struggled.
Because he was more than serviceable in Green Bay this season.
Yeah.
In the games that he had to come in for Jordan Love.
Yeah.
Maybe they need to think about their organizational skills as opposed to the players.
Yes.
Here's what I would say about Will Levis and them.
I just got to look at Cam Newton's hat today.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Cam is definitely one of one. Did you get a chance to meet him, Charlie, at the Heisman?
Yeah, I've met him before, but he's definitely a character.
First
of all, let's start with the fact that dude is massive. He is a massive 6'5". I know he's only 6'5", but he's a massive 6'5".
Yes.
Him and Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
Imagine this. Him and Tim Tebow playing pickleball together. just imagine them two on the pickleball court. Both
huge in the court.
Yeah.
And Cam
casting shadows.
Cam is massive.
Mm-hmm.
It's very evident when he stands next to people, and you can see it. You're like, oh my God,
how big this dude that is.
So much bigger than everybody.
It's like he still can play.
Yeah, he does.
This hat he has on today looks like something melted on the top of it.
He has those hats made. Like,
I know.
Because I wanted to. I told him, I was like, hey man, I need to get one of them hats, because one of the hats he had at the Heisman. I said, hey, can I get one of them hats? He was like, yeah man, just hit me up. I got you.
Why would you?
I was like, all right, cool.
Charlie, I will pay you $1 million to wear one of these hats on the Bleav.
Okay.
It's Shaq bucks. It's Shaq bucks, though.
What's Shaq bucks? I
He's
need
got
that.
his own money. The boy got his own money, is what I'm trying to tell you.
He's got his own money.
He got his own money. I don't know if he can spend it anywhere, but he got his own money. I was gonna say this. I hate to see a team bail on a guy that fast, but at the same time,
Man, we're in the 21st century.
Fan. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of him from the beginning. So
They're getting rid of coaches in a year.
yeah.
And some of the bonehead plays that Will makes during the course of the game, and it's like it kept happening, and so
they were bad.
Yeah, it wasn't like
they
it was
really bad
once, and it was like almost every game there would be at least one of them.
Yeah,
and so, you can't maintain like that.
There's a difference between mistakes and oh my God moments.
Yeah,
Will had oh my God moments. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing that?
Like embarrassing the franchise mistakes.
Right, like you can't have those. And he had a lot of those last year. And Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are sitting right there. They're right there. So how do you not take one of those guys if you're Tennessee? Because I think other than quarterback, Tennessee's got a decent team. You just don't know that they're good because he's so bad.
Tennessee though, it's weird how much talent has left that franchise.
Yeah.
between
Flourish.
Derrick Henry, DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, look at
AJ Brown.
AJ Brown. I mean, look at the players that have come out of that organization.
Malik Willis.
That has done nothing since Steve McNair left. So it's weird.
Charlie, I may have to agree with you on this. As much as I hate it. I don't love seeing a guy get replaced that fast. But again, this is a guy I wouldn't have taken in the first place.
Hey, look, if Charlie's a good one, because Charlie, he wants to give somebody a chance too. You would give him, more than we do. And when he's like, yeah.
Charlie's like, it might be time.
Man, if you got those two guys that are there,
right.
And you have a guy that like Jaden Daniels, what's my man in Houston? CJ Stroud.
CJ Stroud.
You have those type of. You're hoping one of those guys be them, their first season. The guy that I would say would be that guy would be Cam Ward. The reason I say that is because he's able to move around, make plays in the pocket, and if your offensive line is not up to par, you're gonna need somebody like him to be able to make those necessary plays. Not saying that Shedeur can't do that, but he's more of a pocket guy, and he does move to make plays, and very similar to Mahomes. Mahomes is not your typical runner, but when you need to get a first down or make a play out of the pocket, he's able to do that. And so I see Shedeur more in that light, as opposed to a guy very similar to Cam Ward being more like a Jaden Daniels, where he can make things happen with his legs if possible as well. But you can't go wrong with either one of them. But you definitely need to make sure that you have the proper coaching in place and culture and players around the player so that he can be successful. I think that's the biggest, to me, that is the biggest difference for the success of a young quarterback. I mean, you think
Charlie,
go ahead.
Not to interrupt, but I just want to ask you this question. Could a Travis Hunter help Tennessee in their current form more than a quarterback? Well, and what I mean by that is, with Travis, you get to solve maybe two problems that Tennessee has. They do have a secondary problem, right? But also, they have a safety blanket problem for Will Levis. Maybe this is the perfect situation for Travis Hunter because he helps fix Will Levis' safety blanket problem. I'm just asking.
Well,
For a
I
friend.
just, I just cut you off for a friend.
I love it. I love it.
Will Levis. What do you mean safety blanket? I
Well,
mean, he needs a net, a
he
safety
needs a
net.
net. He needs a net. You're right.
You
You're
don't
right.
need
You're
no
right.
blanket. He need a net. And so you're gonna need more than
A
one
full on
person.
net. Right.
You're gonna need more than one person for to help fix his issues.
That Travis ain't playing both sides of the ball all year long.
But he could play enough on. I could
Uh,
see a
He
third
can't
down
play.
package for him.
That's third down.
Well, they're gonna be on a lot of third downs, Charlie.
But you can't go to him every time.
I, I'm just
they,
saying
they gotta go quarterback.
they
Yeah.
need to find somebody
Okay.
they feel comfortable with and put some pieces around them. I thought Chicago did what's his name?
Caleb.
Caleb
Caleb.
a disservice this year because they put people around him in the team and what have you, but they didn't really have anybody to help coach him through.
Right.
Yeah.
Or with the system and those types of things. They fire the coach. Middle of the year. I mean, all that's. I think they fired him,
Yeah.
but
He
uh,
refused.
and so to me, that's what I mean by if you're going to bring one of these guys in, and you're going to bring pieces around them, you got to have the people there to help support them. And I think that's as I was saying about Jaden Daniels and even C.J. Stroud in their first years. They had great stability within what they were doing, and they had pieces around them to be able to help them. Cliff Kingsbury is a great fit for Jaden Daniels.
JJ. Yeah.
I mean, he's a former head coach, and he's a great play caller. And
Yeah.
so, to me, that's what I mean by supporting a good quarterback
And
that's coming in.
and Charlie, the one thing about Cliff, he understands that type of player. He understands the dual threat quarterback. Probably, you could argue maybe better than anybody. Like he gets it because he's always coached it, and so he coached Mahomes, right? If I'm not mistaken, that's was Mahomes' coach. Uh,
Was he
what's
at
that,
Texas
Charlie?
Tech too?
Texas Tech.
Yeah, Texas Tech. That's what I thought. Yeah. So he gets it, and that's a perfect. That's why I think it's such a seamless situation. They need that desperately. Uh, they need to whatever they're going to do in Tennessee. They need to figure that part out because systematically it's not working, and they're not catering their offense to who their clientele is, and that's seems to be the number one issue with what's going on with their squad. But I digress. Interestingly enough, guys, one ACC player being taken in the first round of Mel's mock draft. No other ACC player being taken but Cam Ward.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can
So-
see that after this year.
Very, very interesting early projections going on there.
But the other thing is we can't. The other thing is a lot of times what happens is you look at that and you say, well, the ACC doesn't have any players. Well, maybe this year, because last year we had more.
They were all over.
Year
And the
before.
defensive rookie of the year is going to be out of the ACC.
Correct. So I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
like people keep throwing out like this is a thing that happens year after year after year after year. Maybe it's an outlier for this year, but
It
then
is.
you have the consistency from the SEC, who has all the players, or the Big Ten, who has all the championships the last couple of years, and multiple players going. You comparing them against those conferences, then you're like, oh, okay, I understand why they are saying what they're saying.
Yeah. But there's going to be a lot of ACC players drafted later. I mean, just off Louisville's roster. I mean, Shuck will probably be a late round. Ashton Gelati would probably be the first one to go. Quincy Riley's going to get picked. Ja'Cory Brooks
who's
will
having a
probably
great
get picked.
camp, by the way.
Yeah, he's having a
great
camp.
Shrine Bowl, by the way.
Yeah, Ja'Cory Brooks is probably going to get picked, and so that's just off of one team. And so, I mean, they may not be first round talents, but there are going to be plenty of them playing on Sundays.
100%. All right.
The thing that I would want most is I want to go to a good organization. Like,
Yeah.
regardless,
Makes all the
regardless,
difference in the world.
I understand the money is good, early on, but if you're going to a bad organization and you're making a lot of money, I mean, at some point, you're going to feel broke.
I'm looking at you, De'Aaron Fox.
But he wants to go to the Spurs, though.
That's a good fit, though. I think that's a good fit.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's a great fit. I mean, it's kind of strange that they're ahead of the Spurs in the standings, but him and Wemby together, that's a nice.
I like that.
Now,
I love that.
Now, if I'm Chris Paul, I'm like, now hold on now.
Right, I feel away.
It's time for Chris Paul. It's time for Chris Paul to start moving
Second life.
into a different direction. Because
Right.
at this point, I think he's mentoring, which is cool.
Yeah.
And it's later in his career, but hey, like you say, if they keep bringing you around to mentor and you're still able to compete at a high level, why not do it for as long as you can?
Yeah, if they're gonna keep paying him to do it, then hey. If he's fine and he wants to take De'Aaron Fox under his wing, I see no problem with it at all. I just because you've heard all of that, that's the team that De'Aaron Fox wants to go to. You just wonder how Chris Paul handles up, takes all that, and he might be fine with it. We just don't know. We just haven't heard from him.
Yeah. All right. I'd be remiss if I did not ask my brother Kendrick Haskins. I have to ask you this. Your excitement at the new developments that are taking place.
I know where you're going.
Because I'm just curious. I know that you are a supporter of this team. Your Dallas Cowboys. They made an astute hire to bring on Bryce.
He's from a great family.
He's got lineage.
Phenomenal family. Though I wonder what his dad thinks about him taking his job.
It's not on anybody's radar to be a head coach.
Wasn't on anybody's radar to be a coordinator. Like he
was already the coordinator. He's a coordinator. You fire he's the offensive coordinator for the coach that you fired, and the coach that you fired was the one that was calling the plays.
I actually found out he was the coordinator of that team the day he was hired as the head coach.
Listen, pretty much, yeah.
The Cowboys are the gift that keeps on giving, and despite all that, they're worth $10 billion.
That's why they do what they do. Because they'll do stupid stuff. They won't win, but they'll lead first take every day, and that's all Jerry cares about. Even though he tried to news dump the head coach, because nobody makes a head coaching announcement on a Friday, and on the Friday before Championship Sunday, he's totally trying to let it fly under the radar. And then he goes and botches the press conference.
By the way, Charlie, that press conference was one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever watched. When he turned to his guy and said, "Hey, this is a risk." I was like, "Wait, what? Wait, what?"
Hold on. He said that? Who said that?
Yes.
Jerry literally turned to the guy and said, "Hey, this is a risk." It's one of the biggest risks. But
one of the biggest risks you can take. No head coaching experience. He says this. The guy's sitting right there.
He said that?
Yes.
He did.
Yes.
Multiple times.
Well, it is. I mean, he's being honest.
He is honest.
If you want reality and real, he's being honest.
He was definitely being honest.
But I mean, there's a lot of guys who hadn't had head coaching experience, get opportunities, and it's a risk for organizations. And some of them don't last like a year.
Right.
Like my man Jared Mayo,
Yeah.
Gerard Mayo, and then the owner gets up there and says, the guy gets up there and says, I didn't do him any favors
Mm.
by
Yeah.
hiring him after the fact. So he went a different direction, got him a veteran guy in there. So I think this may be a stopgap.
Yeah.
Mm.
I've got a feeling that of that too. I mean, the crazy thing of all people that said that, first person I heard say that and it made sense was Stu Gatz of all people. But it does make sense that it could be a stopgap between the next coach.
Who and that would be. You guys offer a solution on that one?
It could either be Belichick or Dion.
He could have got Dion now.
No. Um,
It's not a good look for Dion to leave as soon as his son leaves. So
That's true.
yeah.
give him a couple more a year or two, and
That's true.
same with Belichick.
Especially when they just got there. So
I
I'm
could definitely
interested.
see that being a stopgap. I agree with you, Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, if he's sitting there saying the man is a risk, I mean, and I don't think they wanted to go through trying to find a permanent guy, a potential permanent guy, when they could just move somebody up for right now to kind of make
Mm-hmm.
it easier for
It
them.
is. His contract is 4 years, and Dak Prescott has 4 years left on his contract.
If you're Micah Parsons, is the massive contract you're about to sign going to be the reason why you don't care what this is?
Yep.
Okay.
Even though Michael strikes me as somebody who wants to win, he's crazy and says a lot of crazy stuff, but I've never felt like this guy doesn't want to win or he's just in it for the money. He's a passionate guy. Sometimes he talks too much.
He talks way too much.
Yes, but
But
he's giving you max effort. I mean, the way he played at the end of the season, coming back from an injury when the team season is over, they're already out of playoff contention, and he's still out there playing like Lawrence Taylor. Then I mean, he's going to give you max effort no matter what. I love that about him. I wish he would shut up sometimes, but
I see Micah having a Saquon like trajectory. Like I
he's
can
gonna
see
sign that
him
extension,
leaving.
though. He's signing that extension.
Well, he probably will, but I can also see him saying, you know what? Why don't we try this somewhere else? And then when he goes to that team, they become amazing. And he's defensive player of the year.
I mean, at this point, and if this is what they're doing, it depends on how long they're actually going to stay behind Schottenheimer if he struggles. If it's a struggle, I say you do right by Micah and let him go somewhere else. Because obviously you're not winning and the clock's ticking at this point. But if they had,
He might stick around. He might stick around.
Yeah, he's sticking around. I can see them doing right by him like they did Ware when they let him go to the Broncos. And so I can see that too.
All right.
Well, but he's going to compete. That's one thing. He drives me crazy when he talks, but he's going to compete.
Yeah, always. All right. Well, let's see what kind of shout outs we got for today, gentlemen. We start with the great Charlie Ward.
I'm gonna shout out to my team, the Florida State Seminoles, FSUS Seminoles. We've had 2 good wins back to back here. Um, uh, uh, Tuesday night and Wednesday night, and guys, I'm proud of them. Guys are playing well, competing at a high level. Games have been, well, they're supposed to be good quality games, which they were for us because the other team was, high level. But our guys have played extremely well, so I'm proud of them and the effort they've been giving these last couple games, and got senior night coming up. One of our guys is 27 points shy of Trey Card. 27 points shy right now of 1K scoring.
You know,
Wow.
feed him the rock.
So um, it's on him. I mean, he's one of our best players, so he has a chance to do what he need to do without sabotaging the game, trying to get there. But yes, just very proud of them and their effort. Um,
That's it. You good?
yes.
I got two shout outs. First, for the first time ever, we had three high school basketball players from the state of Kentucky voted to the McDonald's All American game. So shout out to Zakiah Johnson from Sacred Heart, Leah Macy from Barstown Bethlehem, and Malachi Moreno from Great Crossing out in Scott County. All three of them will represent the state of Kentucky in the McDonald's All American game. Zakiah is going to LSU, Leah is going to Notre Dame, and Malachi is going to the University of Kentucky. I also want to shout out to U of L basketball sports information director Dana Brown, because I reached out to her about a story I did and she made it come true. So later today, I will be heading over to U of L to do a sit-down interview with Chucky Hepburn and Peyton Siva. Peyton Siva's kind of been a mentor to Chucky since he came to Louisville, and couldn't ask for a much better mentor if you're the U of L point guard than for Peyton Siva. So I'm going to sit down with those two gentlemen this afternoon. So shout out to Dana for making it happen, and shout out to them for making time for me.
I have a weird shout out, but it's a good one though. If you like this sort of thing, shout out to Paul Levesque. Most people know Paul Levesque as the CEO of World Wrestling Entertainment, also by his stage name Triple H, who will rightfully take his place into the Hall of Fame this year. And if you know who and what he has accomplished, to me, I am a Triple H guy because Triple H has made more wrestlers look like they know what they're doing than possibly any other wrestler in the history of that company. He's a lifer, and he also saved a company that, by all accounts, should have tanked when their owner did horrendous things
Yes.
in behind the scenes and publicly. And instead of that company tanking, he not only saved, because if you know the business side of what went down, WWE has signed this massive partnership and ownership thing with UFC. They're in bed together. Everything looks like it's going to be great. And then this horrific story comes out. And you could argue that Triple H single-handedly saved all of that, because it was headed for disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And his simple genius as a storyteller and as an understanding of what sports entertainment is, single-handedly saved. I say single-handedly. He would argue it wasn't single-handedly, and he's probably right. But I'm saying single-handedly because he steered the ship. But he saved that company. He really did. And maybe I won't say he saved the McMahon reputation, because that's probably never.
I think
ever
Stephanie
going to
had a large
return.
hand in it too, though.
Well, Stephanie saved it in that she stepped away, which was the right decision. Because as long as you have a McMahon sitting in a leadership position in that company, it will forever be tainted. But the fact that she had the courage to hand it over to her husband, for them to step away and to allow it to become what it has now become this last 5 years, you got to give that dude a lot of credit. So I'm very happy for him. Like I said, I've always been a fan of his, but I've become even more of a fan these last 5 years, because you see this guy who has such a high level of integrity, walking in that integrity and saying, I get what has happened. I get the uncomfortable position, Charlie, that he's in, because, oh, by the way, the guy's his father-in-law. So it was a very weird situation, and he has handled it with grace and dignity. So I I applaud that guy.
I mean, it seems like wrestling is having another renaissance again. There's actually competing entities for one again, so that's nice to see competition. I don't, I see wrestling on my radar. I don't watch it as much as I used to, but as a matter of fact, I probably couldn't name you 5 wrestlers right now. But I do notice that they have had a resurgence. They're on Peacock. I saw that they have Saturday night's main event coming back sometime soon.
Massive Netflix deal.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're blowing up. Like I said, I don't follow as much as I used to, but I have noticed that most of the news coming from the WWE lately has been positive, and it's not Vince McMahon and all the craziness around him.
Well, for me, about 10 years ago, I got interested in the business side of WWE. Like really fascinated with how the storytelling coincides with the business. And it's really, if you study it out, it's actually pretty amazing. Well, and that's another conversation for another day. But it's really a fascinating situation. But this last 5 years have been unbelievable to watch. So, because I'll be honest with you, I openly wonder, how are you going to get through this if you watch the Vince McMahon documentary, you're like, whoa.
Especially the last episode. Yeah.
This guy's wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But they somehow made it work. So there you go. So that's my shout out for the day. So there you go. All right, well, Charlie, keep winning. That's all I want to say to you. Keep winning, brother.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
And Malachi Marino is on the Nike Hoop Summit team.
Mm-hmm.
With us as well.
Okay.
He's a great kid.
Yeah.
Have you talked to him much? He's a great kid.
Pushed him. He's been on my USA basketball, the junior national team mini camps. I've had him a couple times. I've coached him a couple times, and he's from the first time he was there until now. I mean, the last time I've seen great improvement. I mean, the Joker grew as well.
Yeah.
Since that short window, but he's improved tremendously from the first time he was there to now, and now he has the opportunity to be on the Nike Hoop Summit team, which is a great accomplishment for a young player.
Before we take off, guys, I got to ask you both because I cannot remember. This is a weird shout out to give, but it's also an informational shout out. Who was the young man that signed to North Carolina that announced it on TNT last week? What was that kid's name? Do you guys remember?
Because it came down between Carolina and Kentucky. Let me
What's
find
that,
out.
Charlie?
Caleb Williams?
Was his name Caleb Williams too?
Yeah, I believe so. I do believe that's what it was.
Irony. Wow.
He's good too.
He's good. I was going to ask. That was the reason why I brought it up, because I was going to ask you, had he been to your USA camp as well?
Yes, he's been there.
Okay. Is he as good as advertised?
Yeah, he's good. I mean, there's been some guys that didn't even make the USA, junior national team that's been to camp. And you see them, on television now in college, and I mean they weren't able to make the team for whatever reason. They just weren't probably good fits, but they were very good players. But a lot of these guys, man, you see them and you see the talent, and sometimes they just don't do well at that juncture, gelling with other talent. But in that scenario, but they're really good players.
Okay. I'm just curious. That was unique for TNT to make that announcement live like that. But maybe they see the road ahead and they say, well, this is a very ESPN type thing to do, so we might as well get.
Well, ESPN already did it. They had the kid that went to BYU that made his announcement on First Take.
That's what I'm saying. It's a very ESPN thing to do, and since they're going to be marrying ESPN in less than 6 months,
I think some of that has. I think some of that too had something to do with Kenny.
Kenny, oh for sure, 100%.
Because you know he's going on TNT to announce between North Carolina and anybody. You know he's going to North Carolina. He's not gonna sit. Kenny ain't gonna have this man sitting next to him picking Kentucky.
Right. Whole family there, you know, and all that.
Right.
No.
Yeah, it was wild that they did that after the West Coast game. It was like,
I know. I was like, why you make the people wait till 1 o'clock in the morning to make this announcement?
Right, but that part made zero sense.
But, okay, I mean, listen,
right.
They got a free trip to Atlanta, and I guess everybody's happy. So it all worked out. All right, we're out of here. That's it. No Super Bowl predictions this week because Super Bowl is next week, so there's no reason to get ahead of ourselves. We got time.
Yeah.
So there you go. But that's the great Charlie Ward. That's the great Kendrick Hassan. I'm Lloyd Spence. This is Bleav in the ACC. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Bleav in the ACC with Charlie Ward, Lloyd Spence, and Kendrick Haskins. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share from the Noisemakers page on Facebook and on YouTube. And you can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, and wherever podcasts can be heard. And join us next time on Bleav in the